Have you ever found yourself waiting for a meeting to start where you were going to be asked some questions and your palms are sweaty and you're nervous and you realize that you're just not on your game because you're too wound up? Well, today we're going to talk about how to get unwound and how to relax and calm yourself during and especially before an important meeting at work. Welcome to the Steps and Tools podcast. I'm Dr. Greg Hamlin, and in today's episode, this is going to be kind of an audio cheat sheet for how to calm your nerves before a big meeting at work or before a teleconference that you're anticipating coming in, and where you're going to be on the spot, or at least you feel like you're going to be on the spot for some information, that sort of thing. These techniques can be used in a variety of context, but in today's episode, we're going to look more narrowly at just what it's like when you are preparing for a meeting. So we're gonna talk a little bit about anticipatory anxiety, which is a type of anxiety that involves getting wound up when you're looking forward to doing something, and all you're thinking about is what's going to happen in a few minutes, and you keep getting more and more wound up. It happens to people who give speeches. A lot of people will get nervous before a speech, and then once they get started, they relax and they're fine because they have high anticipatory anxiety, but they don't really have much anxiety once they get talking. So usually when you're preparing for a meeting or you're anticipating being asked questions or even giving a short presentation in a meeting, if you're nervous about it, it's kind of a snowball effect, because the more nervous you get, you end up getting your thoughts scrambled, and your language is not clear, and you don't express yourself well. Then as you notice that, you get more nervous because you think, wow, I'm really sinking this ship, and that just adds to the snowball effect as you go tumbling down the hill. So what this is about is a procedure, a step-by-step way of preparing for a meeting so that you can be ready to go. The idea is not to eliminate your anxiety or completely be relaxed, because research has shown that if you're too relaxed, your performance on a task is not usually as good as when you're kind of at an optimum level. So, for example, in a lot of studies they've done on performance and anxiety, if a person is very, very relaxed and they have to do a task, they may not have the kind of focus and concentration to complete the task, and so their performance isn't as good. Then as you raise their anxiety level, their performance improves and gets better and better as anxiety goes up. But here's the catch. At some point, there's a threshold that's hit, and as anxiety keeps going up, performance starts to plateau and then starts to decrease. And that's often what happens when we get flooded with emotion because we're on the hook for something. So the key thing is to understand a little bit about what's going on in your body, and not just think of it as being something in your mind or having to do with only your thoughts. You need to pay attention to your body, and if you can calm your body, then you're going to be in a position to have that optimum level of anxiety, and you'll be able to be better at what you're doing. And that's kind of a relief too, because when you're learning a new set of skills like relaxation skills, you don't have to have the goal of eliminating anxiety. All you have to do is cut it in half. Usually if you cut it in half, you're probably somewhere in the zone to be able to function well. So let's talk about how this works. The first tip I would say is to finish off your content preparation at least 30 minutes before. So you need to have a cutoff. If you're preparing slides or you're preparing notes or you've got to check on some details before the call comes in, you need to finish that 30 minutes before you start. Because when you at that 30-minute mark, you want to shift gears from preparing for the meeting to calming your body. And once you get good at it, you won't need 30 minutes to do it. But if you try to shorten it at first, it probably won't be very successful. So you need about 30 minutes. And what you do is you start off with some kind of grounding exercise, which is very simple. You get by a solid door or a wall, and you position your feet on the floor so you feel the weight, your own body weight on your feet, and then you push hard against that door. Sounds a little strange, but there's something about feeling your body against something solid and feeling your muscles contract against something solid that helps bring that spacey feeling down in and get you grounded in the present moment. That by itself is not going to do it, but you have to bear with me because these techniques, they start adding up. Each one plays its own little part. So that's very simple to do. And if you're in a room of people and that would be awkward, you can usually find an empty room or go into the restroom, whatever. But you just need to do that for a couple of seconds. Then the next thing is you want to get grounded in where you're going to sit. Now, in a lot of companies, they have these swivel chairs, and these swivel chairs that spin around are if you start doing that because you're nervous, that's one of the worst things you can do, because it almost physically enacts what's going on in your head, and that is that you're spinning out. So you want to, if you can, sit in a chair that doesn't move, but if it does move, just sit still and put your feet on the floor and put your arms on the table or on the arms of the chair, and just think for a minute about where every place your body is touching the chair and how your feet are on the ground, and even push them a little bit onto the floor. So the idea is you're trying to get this sense of being solid, the idea that you're solid in your chair, you're conscious of where your body touches the chair, your back, your butt, your arms, and where your feet touch the floor. So you start to just get grounded. Then you start to do some deep breathing. That's the next step. And you just breathe in really slowly, but comfortably. Not so slow that it's uncomfortable, but just slowly and deeply. You want to think about filling your lungs with air and then exhale equally slowly. And you want to make it very regular. Now, I won't go into detail about how to do this technique, because on my website I have an audio course that explains how to learn the skill of deep breathing. If you go to stepsforchange.com, you'll find, if you scroll down to the free audio relaxation course, you can sign up for that, and what you'll get is be able to listen to a 20-minute training audio on how to do this technique, and then there's also some guided relaxation audios. Now, these audios are not something you're going to use when you're preparing for the meeting. These are things you'll use to practice the technique, and as you learn the technique, you can use this technique once you sit down in the chair getting ready for the meeting. So that's why it takes 30 minutes. You need a little bit longer time to kind of get used to this stuff. After a while, it can be very quick. Within 5 minutes, you can calm yourself and be ready to go. But that takes time and practice. So you're concentrating on your breathing, and here's what happens when you breathe differently, is that you kind of fool your brain into believing that there's nothing to get excited about, because why else would you be breathing that way if unless the danger is past. So oftentimes when you begin to breathe slowly and deeply and think calming thoughts, what happens is that your brain switches off the directions to pump stress hormones into your bloodstream, and so your body actually starts to calm down. And so that can help, but realistically, during this process, the grounding yourself in the chair and then doing the deep breathing, you're going to find a lot of distractions because you're nervous, right? There's something you're concerned about in the meeting, maybe a question that you feel like you won't be quite ready for. So those thoughts are going to intrude. That's okay. That's a natural part of the process. What you want to do with that, though, is you want to kind of visualize one of those machines that feeds tennis balls to you. You're just kind of gently kind of batting them away as they come. You don't have to freak out that you're worried. Just notice those distracting thoughts and bounce them off the tennis racket in your mind, and then bring your concentration back to the breathing. So you're grounding yourself in the chair, you're doing the deep breathing, and then the third thing you're doing is you want to start to visualize something really, really calming and peaceful. So it could be a walk in the forest that you had recently. It could be the sound of the ocean. It could be, everybody has something different, but you need to think of 4 or 5 different memories of things that were really relaxing and made you feel really at peace. And if you have to reach way back in your memory to find those experiences, so be it. But you want to have a little list written down, either on your phone or on a piece of paper that you can glance at. So as you're doing the breathing, you're kind of going through one memory at a time. And what you're doing is you're bringing up that memory, and it's like, say you had a video you wanted to play on your computer. If you played it in with the window real small and you didn't turn on the sound, you wouldn't really relive that experience as much as if you made maximize the screen of the video and it was a high resolution and you had the sound on it with stereo sound. So the idea here when you're visualizing something pleasant is you want to go through all 5 senses, and you want to think about all the different sensory aspects of that experience, whether it was smell or the temperature of the air, the breeze that was gently blowing, the light, the colors, sounds, all of those things. So again, that takes practice, but it's relatively easy to do if you just play with it a little bit. So in practice then, what this looks like is at 30 minutes before the meeting, you're cutting off your preparation. That's the cutoff. Now you're switching gears to get your body ready and your brain ready for the meeting so that you can not be totally relaxed, but just about half as anxious and wound up as you were, because then you're probably going to be in the zone that you need to be. So you ground yourself against the door or against a solid wall. You sit down, you get kind of notice and get grounded in the place where you're sitting. You start your breathing. You're kind of handling the distractions as they come into your mind. Maybe somebody interrupts you, same thing, you just handle it and go back to your breathing. And then you start to visualize something. You can do all this without anybody really knowing what you're doing. And so you're just preparing your mind to get ready for the meeting. And many people use these kind of techniques for all sorts of types of worries, anxieties, panic, that sort of thing. But it does take practice. And I would suggest that you make your own little cheat sheet from this episode and give it a whirl and see what you think. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Greg Hamlin.